So welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. It's another episode of Prog-Watch, and it's about time I did my Keith Emerson tribute. It's been a few weeks since Keith passed in sad circumstances, and I wanted to wait a little while before I did the show, just because I don't want to feel like a vulture, like I'm like jumping on it and cashing in. I always like to let it just sit with me a little while, let it sit with everyone a little while, let everyone kind of get over the initial shock of it. But what kind of prog rock show would I have if I didn't do something to honor the passing of such an icon? I mean, this genre of music that we love would not be what it is if not for Keith Emerson. So I've been hatching this show for a few weeks, and I actually reached out to some people who I've had the good fortune to interview lately and feature on the show. I spoke to Erik Norlander, Aaron Clift, and Erik Gutierrez from the Aaron Clift Project. I spoke to Luca Zabbini from the Barock Project, and also Dave Kerzner. And all of these artists were willing to give me a statement about Keith Emerson, to talk about his influence and, share some reminiscences. So I decided I'm going to pepper those throughout the show, and we're going to play a lot of great music, and we're going to talk a bit about Keith Emerson and the Nice and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, obviously, and we're going to hear from those artists that I mentioned. So to start things off, I wanted to go back to the Nice, the band that kind of launched Keith and put him on the map. So this first track is from the Nice's album Ars Longa Vita Brevis, which is loosely translated as Art is Long, Life is Short. Some people interpret that to mean that art is a lasting thing that will live on forever, while we obviously do not live forever. And others think that it means more or less that acquiring mastery of something, as Keith Emerson did, requires a lifetime of really hard work. And then you're really left with a very short time to use the skill that you've mastered. But anyway, from the 1968 album Ars Longa Vita Brevis by The Nice, I am going to play the intermezzo from the Corellia Suite by Sibelius, and this shows Emerson doing what he would become famous for, arranging classical pieces and giving them a rock treatment. In this way, he really introduced many people to classical music in a roundabout way, including myself. Once again, that was the Intermezzo from the Corellia Suite by Sibelius, by Keith Emerson with the Nice, from their 1968 album Ars Longa, Vita Brevis. And now I'm going to play a little bit that I recorded when I was talking to Erik Norlander a few weeks ago.
I knew Keith for a little over 20 years. I met him, probably around 1994. I was doing a sound library project. Basically, there was a company up in Silicon Valley that had done this sample library of his famous, modular Moog synthesizer and Hammond organ and all that. And they had done it for this sampler called the Akai S1000. So they had recorded all the samples, but they needed someone to program them into the sampler, like to actually make playable instruments. And they weren't super familiar with ELP and all that, but they knew that I was. So they hired me to do the actual voicing. Well, that was kind of how I got to meet Keith. So at the NAMM show, which is this big, trade show that is in Los Angeles every year, I was introduced to him, and it was great. It was just awesome, to meet my hero. And then I think we ended up having dinner and a couple drinks or something like that. And we just kind of stayed in touch. And I ended up doing a bunch of like miscellaneous recording sessions with him at my studio in Los Angeles. I actually did a session with Lee Jackson from The Nice.
Wow.
They were trying to do like some new stuff when they did that little reunion thing, whatever that was, probably that was early 2000s, late 90s. Anyway, so yeah, I had Keith Emerson and Lee Jackson in my studio.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And I don't know if you know this, but my Threshold album, my first solo album, Keith actually wrote the liner notes to that. Yeah, which that was pretty cool. I mean, talk about, getting a nice little bit of assistance in launching your first keyboard-based solo album.
Sure.
That was pretty cool. So we just kind of became friends, and, we'd see each other at events, and, he'd come over. He came over a couple times for our Christmas party and birthdays and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We actually did a gig together in 2009 down in Carlsbad, which is near San Diego. They were doing a museum exhibit there for Moog synthesizers, and it was called The Legacy of Moog, and it was all about Bob Moog and, his amazing inventions from the modular all the way, through the Voyager and the later keyboards that he did. And Michelle Moog, Bob's youngest daughter, is a friend of mine and obviously a friend of Keith's. And so she asked us if we would each play a little solo set, like a little 45-minute solo set, basically to open this museum exhibit. So we did. I played my set, and then Keith played his set, and then we did a song together. And then we did an encore. We did Fanfare for the Common Man together, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I can't say that he was a close friend. I didn't know him that well, but he was certainly a friend, and a guy I really looked up to quite a bit. And he's certainly the main reason why I'm a rock keyboard player. If it wasn't for him, I don't know if I'd be doing it. I mean, he was kind of the guy that said, look what you can do with synthesizers and with Hammond organ and piano. And, you don't have to just be the guy in the background, comping chords.
Just sitting there, yeah.
Yeah.
He made it all active and throwing knives and rocking his, Hammond and all. I mean, I saw him live a few times. He was just unbelievable. And I'm sure there's a lot of guys in your position who wouldn't be where they are if it hadn't been for Keith Emerson.
You're absolutely right. That's true. And I'll have to dig it up. I went to his birthday party a few years ago down in Santa Monica in Los Angeles. And Mari, his girlfriend, that he's been with for, gosh, I don't know how long. I'm going to say, I hope I'm right, at least 10 years. She had a birthday cake made with, they could put kind of photo images on birthday cakes now. And it was a photo of, Keith, with the Hammond, the big modular Moog, like one of the classic images. So when he was going to cut the cake, as you do when it's your birthday, he had this big giant cake knife. And so, of course, I'm like, all right, Keith, I got the picture of you like putting the knife into the cake. So I'll see if I can dig that up, because that was a lot of fun and
that's awesome.
Great. But and yeah, as far as Keith leaving the planet, I think it's all important. It's critical that all of us really remember his life and what he did while he was here, and not how it ended for him, because I think depression is a very real disease. It's a powerful one, and that doesn't define someone's life. I think what the guy did for the previous 71 years is what really matters. And I know that like the tabloids and all that, they want to like zoom in on like, oh, he committed suicide. It's
right.
Like, yeah, I think it's important that, we don't let that color his legacy, because obviously what he did for, music in general, but certainly progressive rock and certainly
Absolutely.
keyboard players, there has never been anyone like him, and there never will be anyone like him. He came at a time where no one had done anything like that before. And now it's kind of like no one can really do that again, because that wave has already come and crested and gone away now. Certainly there's, new electronic and digital artists can do that may be equally innovative, but it's never going to be what Keith did. It's like, I don't know what it's like. It's like Jimi Hendrix. People compare him to Jimi Hendrix all the time.
Right.
And, and even like Led Zeppelin, you could say, well, Led Zeppelin, they're a little bit sloppy. And yeah, but again, who did anything like that before them? It's like we're looking at them, through the lens of history.
Right.
And, 30, 40 years on, we can go, oh, yeah, well, there's 100 guitar players that can play better than Jimi Hendrix now. Or it's like, well, technically, maybe, but those guys play the way they do because of Jimi Hendrix.
That's right. He influenced a whole generation of guitar players who invented new techniques and got more technical and whatnot. But without Hendrix, guitar playing probably wouldn't be where it is today. Just like without Emerson, keyboard playing wouldn't be where it is today. That's
my point. You made my point for me. Perfect.
Sorry.
No, great. You landed right on it. That's it.
Once again, that was Erik Norlander.
Voyage 35 Prog Radio.
Now I'd like to play something from the first Emerson, Lake and Palmer album in 1970. Again, Keith is borrowing from the classics on this one. This time the song is based on the first movement of Janáček's Sinfonietta, and the instrumental middle section includes an extended quotation from the Allemande of Johann Sebastian Bach's first French suite in D minor. The name of the song is Knife Edge, from the 1970 debut album by Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Just a step, cried the sad man. Take a look down at the madman. Theater kings on silver wings fly beyond reason. From the flight of the seagull come the spread claws of the eagle. Only fear breaks the silence as we all kneel, pray for guidance. Specters still have pity. Patient cues for the gallows sing the praises of the hallowed. Our machines feed the furnace. If they take us, they will burn us. the season. Will you hold to your reason? You load it down with your time. Can you still keep your balance? Can you live on
Again, that was one of my favorites, Knife Edge from the first ELP album. And you might notice through the show I'm going to play some stuff that's a little off the beaten path. You know, I figure everyone on all their tributes played all the obvious stuff. So I'm digging a little deeper this time, and I hope you're going to appreciate some of the insights of the various artists that I contacted. Next up, I'm going to play a few statements from Aaron Clift and Erik Gutierrez, the keyboardist and guitarist, respectively, in the Aaron Clift Project.
For me, my earliest recollection of hearing ELP and Keith Emerson in particular was my dad, who had a very large vinyl collection and had Tarkus, and I was getting into a lot of different bands at the time, and he was sharing his stuff with me, and he brought out that one day, and the first thing I saw was the Crazy Armadillo tank on it, and I said, "What the hell is this?" He's like, "This is Emerson, Lake and Palmer. They're pretty weird. Let me play them for you." So he put on Tarkus, and all of a sudden, I heard the first note, and I immediately knew I was in for something crazy. And I hear Eruption, and the first question I said is, "Where's the guitar on this?" He says, "Well, it's keyboard, bass, and drums." And then I heard all the stuff going on with Keith Emerson's organ. I thought, man, this is really cool. And then I heard the crazy synthesizer stuff, and I was like, he's doing all that? It's crazy. It's like a one-man orchestra. And I still think that today, that Keith Emerson was truly unique in really any style of music, that he was the one-man orchestra. And for me, coming from a classical background, I played viola and sang in choirs, and it was really the first time I heard a rock band truly synthesizing classical music, not just in a superficial way, but really in a very clever way. And I immediately took to this band. I went out and got their best of collection, started listening to their albums, started listening to more of the songs on Tarkus and their debut album. Really great stuff. For me, it was always the tones and the overall approach that Keith Emerson took to playing the keyboards. You know, he would play a classical riff in a rock style, and sometimes he would play a rock riff in a classical style. I thought that was pretty cool. For my own band, the Aaron Clift Experiment, we have one song called Shipwrecked, and the opening of Shipwrecked is a fade in with an organ sound, and that was really my tribute to Keith Emerson's genius right there, especially with Tarkus. But that was kind of the thing that influenced me a lot to play that sound. So, yep, Keith Emerson, genius, legend. I will never forget you, Keith. Thank you for all the music you've done.
One of my greatest impressions from Keith Emerson, and from ELP for that matter, was how in an epic like Tarkus can you have an unmatched synthesis of classical, rock, and virtuosity exploding from the first movement, which would then immediately segue into the jazzy, harmony-laden Stones of years, showing me, equipped with imagination, knowledge, and skill, that there are no limits in progressive music. Keith Emerson certainly led the way.
Again, that was Aaron Clift and Erik Gutierrez from the Aaron Clift Project. And coming up next, I'd like to play a song from what is probably my favorite ELP album. It's tough. It's a toss-up between this and probably Tarkus. But I'm going to play a track from Trilogy, which was released in 1972. I'm going to play the title track.
to mend the love that ended long ago, although we still pretend our love is surely coming to an end. Don't waste the time, you've got to love again. We tried to lie, but you and I know better than to let each other lie. The thought of lying to you makes me cry, counting up the time that's passed us by. I've sent this letter hoping it will reach your hand, and if it does, I hope that you will understand that I must leave in a while. And though I smile, you know the smile is only there to hide what I'm really feeling deep inside. Just a face where I can hang my pride.
Again, that was the title track, Trilogy, from the album of the same name by Emerson, Lake and Palmer in 1972. Next, I'm going to play a little statement that was prepared for me by Dave Kerzner.
I first met Keith Emerson. He was a friend of Kevin Gilbert's, and I was playing in Kevin Gilbert's band Thud in Los Angeles. And when I went to one of our gigs at the Alligator Lounge, which is this little club just in L.A., nothing big, on the way in, I saw Kevin was talking to who I thought was Keith Emerson. So I pulled Kevin aside. I said, "Is that Keith Emerson?" And he says, "Yeah, you want to meet him?" And I said, "Of course, I'm a keyboard player," And so he introduced me, and he was the nicest guy. I mean, I was loading out my gear, and he offered to help me move my keyboard into the Alligator Lounge, and he said, "Would it be okay if I could be your roadie for the evening?" And we laughed, and I always thought that's the ultimate keyboard player's tale to say, Keith Emerson helped me move my gear and my Wurlitzer. So ever since then, we've been friends, and that was in the mid-'90s. We've done some different things together, and I've helped him out with some things, and vice versa. He played a cameo on my first solo record, my debut album, New World, on a song called Crossing of Fates. And I've sampled his Moog modular from my company Sonic Reality, and we've had very nice times just hanging out with him and his girlfriend Mari, having sushi and all sorts of things. He's been a real friend and mentor, but growing up listening to ELP and his keyboard playing, it was a real inspiration for me. And it's just amazing, his legacy, because even some of my biggest influences, like Tony Banks of Genesis, were influenced by him in the nice. And so he's really kind of like the Beatles or the Hendrix of keyboards, or the just originator, bold, one of the main originators of progressive rock and of keyboard playing, virtuoso keyboard playing, or classical influence keyboard playing. And while I don't quite play, certainly to the extent that, like him, very few do, actually. He's just, and of course his stage abilities and performance style, and his antics and everything that he did, spinning around on a piano and sticking knives in organs, and it's just amazing the wild man that he was on stage. And yet he was quite a sweet, gentle person in real life, and very funny. Obviously I'm as sad as anyone else that he's gone. I'm doing a special tribute in my show. I'm here in England right now performing my music and the music of the band I'm in called Sound of Contact, and we're doing some Pink Floyd with Durga McBroom, who's a singer that sings with me on my music as well. And we all love Keith, Fernando Perdomo. I mean, we're just big fans and sad to see him go, so we're going to do a tip of the hat to my old friend Keith Emerson in my show, starting in London on the 26th. And this is, I will always think of Keith and remember him fondly. I'm sad the way it ended for him, and I have to say I didn't see that coming. I've never known him to be suicidal, but then again, maybe I just didn't know him well enough. But the Keith that I know and the Keith that I will remember is a very jolly, top-spirited, music lover, child, forever a child. He was very energetic, and a true artist, and a nice guy, and I really miss him, and may he rest in peace. Love you, Keith.
Amen, Dave. Once again, that was Dave Kerzner.
This is Voyage 35 Radio. Enjoy the music.
The next song I'm going to play is from the first reunion that Emerson and Lake had after the band had more or less went on an extended hiatus after the poorly received Love Beach album. Carl Palmer was busy with Asia at the time, so veteran rock drummer Cozy Powell sat in on the skins. I'm going to play the opener from the self-titled Emerson, Lake and Powell album, which was released in 1986, and the name of the song is The Score. Again, that was the score from the Emerson, Lake and Powell album, the first more or less reuniting of Emerson and Lake after the band had more or less broken up. And speaking of scores, the next fellow I have a statement from has been doing some pretty nice musical scoring lately himself. The phenomenally talented Luca Zabbini of the Barock Project also provided me with a statement. I'm going to play it now.
My first encounter with the music of Emerson happened around 94, when I was 10. And while browsing through my dad's vinyls, I came across a unique, mysterious-looking album. The cover had a large white phoenix in the center with a single title, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Probably because I was attracted by the cover, I took the disc. I put it on the record player, and suddenly I was literally overwhelmed by a sound I never heard before. And so this kind of hellish church organ played in such an unusual way that seemed to violently catapult me into a kind of Baroque church or something. It was dark and mysterious, and immediately caught my attention. I was listening to the Three Fates suite, precisely the song Clotho. This kind of damned organ slapped me with these epic harmonies. I couldn't stop it. And then a magical piano that seemed to fly high in the sky appeared in all its glory with the song Lachesis. That music sparked the imagination of a 10-year-old boy. I could see the color, feel the touch, and even smell that music. Only now I realized that most likely I was involved in one of those special events called synesthesia. I could not fully understand, but my subconscious absorbed all of those notes. Later on, I borrowed Trilogy, Pictures at an Exhibition, and Brain Salad Surgery. I remember the hours spent in my room listening to these three albums. The more I listened to Brain Salad Surgery, the more I became a disciple of Keith Emerson. I began to try to play by ear on the piano what came out of those records. Certainly not an easy task, but I wanted to play his music. I was nicknamed Emerson in middle school, I remember, while my classmates were more into Take That. A few months later I borrowed Welcome Back My Friends live, and that became my music Bible. I learned by heart every solo, even the mistakes of that live, and began to play that material with my first band at 13. Hoy Down, Pictures at an Exhibition, Tarkus were the first songs that I played in front of an audience in my own town. And so when given a videotape of an ELP concert, I could finally see them playing, how the Hammond and the Giant Moog looked like. And when seeing Keith stabbing the organ at the end of the concert, I decided to do it too, on an old small electric toy organ borrowed from a classmate. My music teacher was intrigued by me playing Pictures at an Exhibition. He broke the music score and a tape with the original Mussorgsky, and I was fascinated. So I then decided to enroll at the conservatory. Emerson made the entire generation assimilate a music called educated, considered elite, and let it reach everyone. Without Emerson, I would never find out about Mussorgsky. I would never love Bach so madly. I would never build a repertoire of classical studies so odd for a conservatory pianist, which include works by Ginastera, Bartók, Rachmaninoff. I got to spend hours on the piano practicing to be able to play like him. The efforts to improve the technique of the left hand in order to be able to play those figures of ostinato during the piano solos. So, after starting piano studies, I also joined composition at the conservatory and graduated playing his piano concerto. And at 16, I had already written a lot of music in that style, and my dream of putting on a progressive band was taking shape. A couple of years later, I was able to give life to Barock Project. We initially played many ELP covers, including the entire Tarkus. His music compositions show a sensitive person with an endless passion for music and art, a true devotion. So, the news of his death reached me while traveling back home in a van with my band. That was a whipping Facebook post in the night, and I immediately yelled no. So, when reading the word suicide, shortly after returning home, I burst into tears. I came to think about how I will feel if all of a sudden I couldn't get to play the piano one day. But fortunately, nobody will ever take away his music. It's really hard for me to explain Emerson in words. Maybe more effective would be listening to me play, because it's the only way I can fully express my love and gratitude, since every note I play, it is really a thought for Keith. So I will always be grateful to that day when, aged 10, I bumped into that record with the white phoenix on the cover and decided to play it. So, thanks for everything, Keith.
Once again, that was Luca Zabbini of the Barock Project. He's obviously a person who was heavily influenced by Keith Emerson. So anyway, after Emerson, Lake and Powell had run its course and Emerson had reunited with Carl Palmer in the short-lived band 3, the original trio reunited as Emerson, Lake and Palmer once again to do 2 more albums in the 90s. And they also re-recorded some older material for a box set called Return of the Manticore. Interestingly, they did a song from each of the bands that originally put them on the map. For Emerson, it was The Nice. For Lake, it was King Crimson. And for Palmer, it was The Crazy World of Arthur Brown. They also did a new version of Touch and Go from the Emerson, Lake and Powell project, and they did this song. It's a studio recording of Pictures at an Exhibition, which was the subject of the second ELP album, but was all recorded live. Like I said before, Emerson turned people on to classical music, and this song personally turned me on to Mussorgsky. So I give you Pictures at an Exhibition.
tortured dreams, childhood themes of nights alone. Wipe away endless years, childhood tears as dry as stone. From seeds of confusion, illusions, dark blossoms have grown. Even now, in furrows of sorrow, the doubt still is sown. My life's course is guided, decided by limits drawn on charts of my past ways and pathways since I was born. I carry the dust of a journey that cannot be shaken away. It lives deep within me, for I breathe it every day. You and I are yesterday's answers. The earth of the past come to flesh. Eroded by time's rivers to the ships we now possess. Come share of my breath and my substance, and name the lost dreams and our times. In bright infinite moments, all our reasons are lost in our rhymes.
Once again, that was Pictures at an Exhibition, and in the studio version that ELP recorded for the Return of the Manticore box set, which was released, I think, in 93.
Non-stop radio.
Voyage 35.
Anyway, next up, I'm going to dip back to the Nice. In 2002, the Nice actually reunited for some live dates and recorded a live album called Vivacitas, which comes from the Latin word, which is the root of vivacity. Well, the old boys showed they still had some on this album. Check out this medley of two songs that helped put them and Emerson on the map. It's America combined with Rondo. You'll notice some nice guitar work on this one because on this tour, the original three members of the Nice were augmented by Dave Kilminster on guitar. But here it is, America, Rondo, medley from the Nice, Vivacitas.
The Nice thing together in a void. We'll be here when the others are in pantomime in Wolverhampton.
Once again, that was a mashup of America and Rondo, two nice classics that more or less put Emerson and the Nice on the map.
Voyage 35 Radio. Modern progressive rock tunes.
So anyway, I'm going to say my piece now. I don't often editorialize, but I have to speak up about something here. After Keith's death, his longtime girlfriend Mari put out a statement alluding to the fact that anxiety about upcoming concerts and some nasty fan reactions to some of his more recent performances could have played a part in the depression that led to Keith taking his own life. Like I said, I don't usually editorialize on the show, but here I'm going to have to. If what Mari said is true, it's a real tragedy of the modern age, in my opinion. The internet can obviously be a great thing. It allows like-minded people to share ideas and fun times on Facebook groups and forums and Twitter, etc. And you wouldn't be listening to this program without the internet. It has also allowed us to break away from the narrow flavor of the month formatting of regular radio. There's all kinds of cool internet radio channels, podcasts, all kinds of stuff to listen to. But I've noticed that there are some people out there who can turn quite vicious when they get behind their keyboards, and this is part of the nasty side of the internet. Kids can be hounded and bullied on social media to the point of taking their own lives, and apparently so could someone as great as Keith Emerson, a guy who had been on top of the world at one point and helped shape a genre of music and inspire generations of musicians, as we have heard. My mother always said that if you can't say anything nice, say nothing at all. And one of my rules in my social media travels is that I never type anything that I wouldn't say to someone's face. So maybe we can all try to be a little nicer to each other, and maybe think of Keith the next time before you hit the send button on your keyboard. Enough said on that. But in my mind, Keith still had plenty to give to this world, even if his physical condition and pain in his right hand were interfering with his ability to play like he did back in the 70s. He still had a mind that could invent unique, wonderful music, unlike the music of anyone else on this planet. He could have composed, he could have taught, but sadly he didn't see it that way. Anyway, wherever he is, I hope he has found peace. He deserves it for all the pleasure he created for so many of us while he was here. So I'll leave you with the Piano Concerto No. 1 from Emerson, Lake and Palmer's Works, Volume 1, released in 1977. Some critics may not have thought too highly of this, but we all know that many critics become critics because they themselves could not succeed in the fields that they ultimately criticize. I always admired Keith for having the guts to do this, and saw it as a beginning of a journey that could have led him into more serious classical composition later in his life. But anyway, so long, Keith. You have made a lasting impression on this world, and I'm sure your music will live on for many generations to come.